Right. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that affects every single person in this room: housing. But I promise you, by the time we're done, you're going to walk out thinking about it completely different than when you walked in. Now, most people spend their entire lives asking the wrong question. They ask, should I rent or buy? Tonight, we're going to throw that question out of the window and replace it with a better one. My name is Andre Boone, and at Buckeye Financial, we believe in one thing: defense wins championships. That's true on the football field, and it is absolutely true with your money. Let's get into it. Now, before we dive in, let me tell you a little bit about who's standing in front of you, because I think context matters. Now, I played defensive back at The Ohio State. I was part of the 2002 BCS National Championship team, and what I learned on that field about discipline, about protecting what matters, about playing smart, not just hard, that's exactly what I brought into the financial world. I founded Buckeye Financial on one principle: the 1% have always had access to strategies that protect and grow wealth. The 99% deserve to know those same strategies, and that's why I'm here tonight. I'm licensed across 8 states. I specialize in annuities, indexed life insurance, long-term care, and retirement planning, and everything I do is built around protecting you, the last line of defense for your family's financial future. So let's start here. For decades, the conversation has been framed as rent versus buy, like it's a battle, like you have to pick a side. And what happens? Most people default to buying because that's what their parents did. That's what their neighbors did. That's what society told them was the responsible thing to do. But here's what nobody stops to ask: why are you buying? Why is it to build wealth? Is it because you want a place to call your own? Or is it just because you thought you were supposed to? The right question, the question that changes everything, is this: how do I build wealth while controlling my housing cost? The moment you ask that question, a whole new world of strategy opens up, and that's exactly what we're going to explore tonight. Okay, let's talk real numbers. The median home price right now in 2026 is around $420,000 to $450,000. So let's use $450,000 as our example. To buy this house, here's what day one looks like. You need $90,000 down. That's 20% to avoid PMI. Then you got closing cost, appraisal, title, attorney fees, prepaid interest, another $9,700. So before you move a single piece of furniture, you're writing a check for just under $100,000. Now your monthly payment, at today's rates, around 6.8% on a 30-year fixed. Your principal and interest alone is $2,352 a month. But that's not your real payment. Add property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA, HOA, excuse me, if you got one, and then maintenance. And your true all-in monthly cost is closer to $3,600 a month. And that maintenance number, I need you to hear this. The average financial guidance says budget 1 to 2% of your home's value every year for upkeep. on a $450,000 home, that's $4,500 to $9,000 a year. That's your roof, your HVAC, your water heater, your appliances. Most buyers budget zero for this, and then they're shocked when the AC goes out in July and they're writing a $10,000 check they weren't prepared for. So over 30 years, you will write checks totaling approximately $1.37 million on a $450,000 home. And at the end, the house may be worth $1.46 million, assuming normal appreciation. So you broke roughly even while living in it, and that's not a bad deal, but let's see what the alternative looks like. Now here's where it gets interesting. Let's say instead of buying, you rent a comparable home for about $2,200 a month. That's $99,700 you don't have to hand over at closing. You invest it on day one, and that $1,400 difference between what the buyer pays every month and what you're paying in rent, you invest that every single month. If you put that money in the stock market and average 7% a year over 30 years, here's what happens. That $99,700 lump sum grows to about $759,000 all by itself. The $1,400 a month compounds to about $1.7 million. Total portfolio, right around $2,460,000. Now on paper, the renter wins, and it's not close. But, and this is a big but, there's a fatal flaw in this plan, and I see it destroy this strategy every single time. Most renters do not invest the difference. They spend it. Life happens. The car breaks down. The kids need something. The vacation gets booked. And suddenly, that $1,400 a month just disappears into their lifestyle. So the question isn't just, what should I do with that money? The question is, what's the right vehicle to put it in so that it's protected, it's disciplined, and it grows the way it's supposed to. When most people say invest the difference, they mean throw it into a brokerage account or a mutual fund. And on the surface, that sounds great. But let me show you 4 problems with that approach that they never put in the brochure. Number 1, there is no floor. If the market drops 30%, and it has, multiply times 4 in our lifetime, your $2.46 million portfolio loses $738,000 in value. And then you need 43% gain just to get back to where you started. That's years of your life gone. Number 2, taxes. When you start pulling that money out, the IRS is standing right there with their hand out. Capital gains tax at 15 to 20% on that portfolio. You could lose $300,000 to $500,000 before you spend a single dollar. Nobody talks about that in the projection. Number 3, sequence of return risk. This one is deadly. If the market crashes in year 27 or 28, right before you retire, it can permanently destroy your retirement outcome. The timing of losses matters as much as the losses themselves. And number 4, zero creditor protection. If you get sued, if you go through a bankruptcy, that brokerage account is fully exposed. Everything you built could be wiped out. The market is a powerful tool, but unprotected. It's a loaded weapon pointed at your retirement. So what's the alternative? This is where Buckeye Financial earns its name. This is where defense wins championships. It's called a Max Funded Index Universal Life Policy, an IUL. And when it's structured correctly, it solves every single problem I just showed you. Let me walk you through why. First, the zero floor. This is the most important feature of the IUL. If the market drops 30%, you get credited 0%, not negative 30. Your money does not go backwards because of a market crash, ever. Second, capped upside. In a strong year, top carriers will cap your gain somewhere between 10 to 13% or offer a participation rate of 100 to 165% on the index gains. So you capture real upside. Third, and this is massive, tax-free growth and tax-free income. The cash value in your IUL grows without being taxed every year. And when you take it out in retirement, you access it through a policy loans, which are not taxable income. Zero capital gains, ever. That's a legal strategy that has been in the tax code for decades. Fourth, creditor protection. Now, in Virginia, for an example, and most states, the cash value inside your IUL is protected from lawsuits and creditors. Fifth, a death benefit. Your family gets a tax-free payout, and in a properly structured max-funded policy, that death benefit comes at essentially no net extra cost to you. And sixth, no sequence of return risk. Because of the zero floor, a crash the year before you retire doesn't devastate your plan. You just get credit at zero, and the next year you start capturing gains again. So what's the effective return? On a tax-free basis, 5.5 to 7% average annually. To match that in a taxable account, you need to earn 8 to 9% before taxes. Most people can't consistently do that, especially without a floor protection. Now let's put it all on one slide and compare all three strategies side by side. The home buyer walks in with $99,700 cash at closing. The renter who invests in the market also deploys $99,700 plus $1,400 a month and does this, and as so does the renter who invests in the IUL. Excuse me. After 30 years, the home is worth about $1.46 million, owned free and clear. The market investor has $2.46 million, but after taxes, they're spending closer to $1.96 to $2.1 million. The IUL investor has $1.9 million to $2.1 million, and every dollar of it is tax-free. The net spendable outcome is essentially the same between the market and the IUL. But look at what's different. The IUL has a zero floor. The market doesn't. The IUL has tax-free income. The market doesn't. The IUL has a death benefit. The market doesn't. The IUL has creditor protection. The market doesn't. Same net outcome. Completely different risk profile. What would you take, or what would you take the risk when, why would you take the risk when you don't have to? Now I want to show you the big picture, because what I've been describing isn't just a financial product. That's a philosophy. It's the way the 1% have always thought about money. Layer 1 is the IUL, your financial engine. You take the $99,700 plus the $1,400 a month and you pour it into a properly structured IUL. It grows tax-free, protected from downturns, compounding consistently. You don't touch it, you let it work. Layer 2 is income producing properties. Instead of buying a primary residence, you buy assets that cash flow. A rental property, a short-term rental on Airbnb, something domestic or even overseas in a market where the dollar goes further. Those properties pay you every month. And that income, it covers your rent. You are now living for essentially free, while your IUL is compounding untouched in the background. Layer 3 is geographic freedom. Because you don't have a 30-year mortgage tying you to one address, you can move. Winters are brutal. Go to the other hemisphere. Your properties rotate as income generators while you live wherever makes sense for your season of life. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. His entire team, many of them rent where they live, and they own properties that pay them. And that's the model. Don't buy a house to live in. Buy assets that pay for where you live. That's the mindset shift that separates the 99% from the 1%. Now, I want to be honest with you because this isn't a the buyer always loses conversation. Let me show you who's actually winning at different points in time. In the first 7 years, the renter with the IUL is winning. Why? Because most of those early mortgage payments are going almost entirely to interest, not equity. Meanwhile, the IUL is compounding and the rental income is starting to build. Years 8 through 18, it's close. The homeowner is building real equity now. Appreciation is working. It's a legitimate race. Year 19 through 25. On paper, the IUL investor is ahead. Portfolio value is outpacing projected home equity. But then comes year 30, and this is where the homeowner's big moment arrives. The mortgage is done, it's paid off. They now live in that house, and their only housing costs are property taxes and insurance, maybe $600 to $700 a month. That is powerful. The renter, they're still paying rent, which by year 30 could be about $4,000 a month or more with inflation. But, and here's the key, the IUL investor has a tax-free income strategy they can pull from to cover the rent and still come out ahead. It comes down to which one they execute better. Neither answer is universally wrong. What matters is having a plan and sticking to it. So I have to be straight with you on this slide, because if I'm not doing my job. The IUL is not magic. It is a tool. And like any tool, in the wrong hands, it fails. In the right hands, it outperforms almost everything, and I mean everything else, on a risk-adjusted, tax-adjusted basis. Here's when it works. It has to be structured correctly. Maximum cash value, minimum death benefit. That's the key design principle. The right carrier has to be chosen. Caps and participation rates vary enormously between companies, and a weak carrier can cut your effective return in half. It has to be funded consistently. If you stop paying premiums or underfunded, the policy can lapse and you lose everything. The client has to be insurable. Health matters in underwriting, and the advisor has to know what they're doing. Here's when it fails: when someone sells it with a massive death benefit to earn a bigger commission. Those internal costs kill the growth. When the wrong carrier is chosen, when the client underfunds it after year 3 because life got hard, when the advisor treats it like a life insurance sale instead of a wealth building vehicle. And most people who have had a bad IUL experience, it wasn't because the product was bad, it was because it was designed badly. That's why the advisor in front of you matters. At Buckeye Financial, we design your outcome, not ours. So here's where we are. You've seen the math. You've seen all three strategies compared side by side. You understand the three-layer wealth machine. And you understand why the IUL, when structured correctly, is the vehicle that ties it all together. Now the question is, what are you going to do with this information? Here's what I want to offer you tonight. 3 simple steps. Step 1. Let's schedule a retirement protection review. This is a private, no obligation conversation where we map your current financial position against this strategy. No sales pressure, just your numbers, your goals, and a plan. Step 2. We'll run a custom IUL illustration for you with your age, your health profile, and whatever premium makes sense for your budget. So the real numbers come out and not the hypotheticals. Step 3. If the income property piece speaks to you, we'll connect you with the partners who specialize in cash flowing properties, both domestic and international. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the screen right now. It takes you directly to my calendar. You can pick a time that works for you. No cost, no obligation, just a conversation. Defense wins championships. Let's build yours right now.